Hello everyone and welcome to another car profile where we are looking at the Nissan GT500 car, the Pennzoil car that you can see in the background, of course, a legend of Gran Turismo. Now, this car has a 2.7 litre inline 6 and the turbocharger on this thing is ridiculous. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. So this car is front-engined, rear-wheel drive, 6 gears in this car, and you do use all 6 gears as you drive this thing. You can rev the nuts out of it, but you might not necessarily need to. Now, some bits of history here for you. It did win the Japanese Touring Car Championship back in its day, in its very first season, in fact. A very reliable car that it was as well. And in terms of a bit of history in Gran Turismo, thank you to Gran Turismo fandom for this fact, but recognizable livery, and the car's been in Gran Turismo since GT2. How about that one for you? It does understeer a lot, this one. It can become very unsettled over some bumps, and yeah, it's got good top end pace. If you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe. I do these car profiles every single week as best as I can. Let's jump into them now and let's have a look at where it fits on the all-important leaderboards. So we start with our low-speed bop test, and if you're new to this video series, let me explain this one to you. We have a low, medium, and high-speed bop test. This is the low one. At the moment, all the bops are the same, and we compare faster slaps in this lap, just to show you what we're doing. So in the GTR, we're comparing against the fastest lap at the moment, the 911, and we are already nearly 2 tenths down there, so you've seen a difference there between the two cars. What we actually do at the end is we look at Optimum, and the Optimum is what goes on the leaderboard, because it's very easy to get 10 best sectors all together. In terms of, I could mess up sector 2 on one lap, but then nail it on the next lap. I can combine the best sectors, and that gives us an optimum time, and then we try that. Now, going through here, notice the oversteer there. So I talked about this in the introduction of this car. It gets very unsettled over very strange bumps, and it literally, it's like it bounces, hits the floor, and then just grips. It's very odd, and it can cause a bit of issue there as we get a bit of oversteer going through the corkscrew. Again, those bumps having an impact here as we go through that left-hander. 7 tenths down on that Porsche 911 then as we go into the right-hander. Gonna head towards the final corner then. 7 tenths, a lot to pull back, but let's see what we could do in this final corner then as we go into left. We short shift here. I did talk about that short shifting earlier on, and we're going to see the performance of that a little bit later in this test as well. Let's see what we get across the line though then. It's a 122.209, nearly 1 second off the Porsche. So very significant difference there. Let's see what happens in terms of the Optimum test though, because remember, Optimums are a much more better indicator in terms of where the car sits. So where is it then? Yeah, it's not even on the top 10 there, I'm afraid. As you can see there, they are the leaders in the top 10 at the moment. We've done car profiles on all of these, and you can check that out in the playlist. That's in the description and also on the channel if you want to search for it. It does come home in P13 though, which is second to last. This car does struggle. It's very much there with some of the old school cars there in terms of the Aston Martin DBR9 GT1. Old cars are bopped worse in Gran Turismo, except the Toyota Supra, weirdly. I'm not sure what that's about other than partner, but there we go. Let's go into Suzuka then, where we do the mid-speed bop test. This is categorized as medium speed in Gran Turismo as we go through that right-hander then. So, first sector, of course, here at Suzuka, all about handling then as we go into here. We're stuck in 3rd gear at the moment. One thing this car does like is a little bit of power oversteer when that turbo really kicks in. It does allow it to rotate a little bit, which does mean it helps in this sector 1. We'll see how well it helps it as we get towards the end here. And compared to the Toyota Supra, which is the fastest car at this circuit at the moment that we've got there, 33.610, 2.5 tenths down then. Well, that's what the Supra got, sorry. We're 2.5 tenths down on that as we go into Tidgney 1 and 2. So it did struggle a little bit at Tidgney 1. Managed to hold it this time as we go through the right-hander. And we are using ×1 Fuel and Tyre for those that are wondering. I'll explain that in a second as we get towards the hairpin. 4 tenths down now on that Toyota Supra. That time is dropping away, but let's see what it's like in terms of speed. That's where the second half of Suzuka comes in. Bit of a struggle on exit there with this car. It does like a bit of power oversteer there. When you put the foot down, it likes to spin its wheels as we continue on. So yes, we use ×1 Fuel, ×1 Tyre Wear, because that's how Gran Turismo tests all the cars. That's why even Daily Race A uses ×1 Fuel and Tyre Wear. So we're doing the same, just to get the actual feel of the car as we go into the second part of Spoon here. Short shift to 3rd again. Notice I do that a lot. We did do Beat the Meta. I did explain that short shift as well. And now in Beat the Meta, spoiler alert, we only got P2, remember, due to the lobby issues as well. So make sure you check out that Beat the Meta later on. Lots of action in that one. And we're 9 tenths down. 9 tenths down on that Toyota Supra as we go through that left-hander and we head towards the final corner here then. Yeah, I had to brake really early. Now, one thing I will say, the brakes on this car are not that good. They're really not that good. A few corners I have to brake extremely early here as we continue on out there then. So 1:59.007, we've got to try and beat. We're already past that as we get a 2:0.192. That's the fastest lap I did in this car. It's 1.2 seconds down on that Toyota Supra fast lap. So that is a bit of a concern here. Let's go then towards that Optimum leaderboard then. Let's see where the Optimums fit in all here as we were nearly 1.2 down then. Are we on the top 10? We are not. We are not making it there. The Porsche is actually top of Optimum there in the 58. In the 58! But we've got to see where this car fits. As I say, all the car profiles are available for these if you're wondering how they did, what I talked about in those cars. And with P12, so we've got up a place slightly. They're just overtaking the Ford GT, but it's in that same sort of area again. It did get in the 59s at least, unlike that Aston Martin DBR9 GT1. So far I struggled at the low speed and the medium speed, but it does have good top-end speed. So maybe Bathurst can be its saving grace. Let's find out as we head into the high-speed bot test. Headed towards turn 1 then. Bit of a weird bump on the inside here, but third gear sort of settled it down nicely there as we go through that first corner. Let's head straight towards this first sector. Now, if you're wondering why I'm on my TCR account for this profile, because I normally do it on my other account, it's because it's not in the legendary dealership, which is where you buy this car, and we are 0.14 down in terms of temps there on the BMW M6, which is the fastest car here, weirdly, as that's more of a handling car, but it absolutely nailed the mountain. It really did. We'll see what this car can do here at the mountain as well. Coming into this left-hander, very hard one to get right. It did suffer a bit of understeer sometimes, but nailed it fine here. No, not too many issues there on exit as we go up here, then head over towards that left-hand side. We chuck it in here. I think I'll do a slight lift here, maybe. Yeah, tiny is the lift there as we get very close to the barrier. Down we go then into this little section here. We clip that, we lift a little bit again, and it did struggle here again. The car wanted to lift there even with the lift off, so it very much likes to take off. The suspension definitely feels like there's something wrong with it as we go down the hill. Now, being an FR car, it's not going to struggle as much here at the dipper as MR cars as we go through that left-hander. Did struggle a bit with power oversteer there sometimes. You see there, I get very close to the barrier. I'm not sure whether I even scraped it there as we go down to Forest Elbow and into this left-hander. Second or third gear, it varied for me here. It wasn't too bad in either of the gears as we accelerate out of there and continue on. So yeah, I couldn't buy it on my my actual private account because it's not in the luxury dealership, so I had to do it on this account. As I said, this one would be the next one. Don't worry, the AMG Mercedes will also be coming very soon as well, so don't panic if you are waiting for that. We are 0.768 down now on the BMW M6 as we head towards the left-hander. Then we go into that braking zone. Then we had to brake extremely early for the chase as we continue on through there and head towards the final corner then. Again, going to have to brake extremely early here. We do stay in that fourth gear because you can do that in this car using the engine braking there to our advantage as we continue on out of there. And we're going to head towards the line then. What kind of lap time is this going to be then? We're trying to beat a 2:01.8 and we get a 2:02.8. Yes, we are 1 second down once again on the fastest car at a circuit. So this car really struggling. There's a bit of an oversteer there on exit. Let's see where it sits so in terms of those optimum times then. And again, we're not in the top 10 at all. Not in the top 10. Not a good look really in terms of this car. It's just down at the bottom. Something needs to change with this car. It just can't compete. Look, I mean, look at the Supra GT500. Third. Get this one down in 12th there. And yeah, it's just crazy that the Supra is so far high. But we're going to leave those tests then in terms of the circuits, and we're going to see if it has any strengths in terms of fuel and tyre wear. Of course, we go into the fuel test first of all. Now, what we do here then is we have the maximum RPM on the top left. We basically change gear at the end of the bar. We have the top right, which is quarter shift, and at the bottom, we've got a quarter shift plus fuel map, because as I always say every single time, fuel map is the worst way to save fuel, so I highly advise not doing that. And the quarter shift maximum RPM is the best way in terms of saving fuel, because basically fuel is calculated on revs. So the higher in the revs you go, the more fuel you use. As you can see, we get to the top of the revs there at the top. And in a first in the car profiles, the maximum RPM and the quarter shift get to the line at the exact same time. Weirdly, the quarter shift has 1 extra mile an hour, but that must be like a 0.01 or something that makes it with a round in there. But they get to the line at the exact same time. That is a first here in terms of car profiles. And you can see the fuel difference there of just 2%. We then advance a bit further on with the bottom one there, where it gets to the line on 67%. A little bit slower, but still actually quite quick there. A quite quick time indeed. 7 tenths off the fastest time. So it really does pull this car. And I did talk about that short shifting. You can short shift for days in this car, and it will create some stability for you if you do want to use it. Where does it come then on the maximum RPM? Well, it's P6 there, 57 fuel, so it's quite high in terms of fuel level there and performance. It's not doing too bad at all. Obviously, the Aston Martin there, P2, is the standout in terms of performance. But when we go to the next, well, we go to the next section here where these are obviously the slackers of the group. Slow pace, but maybe they've got a bit more fuel. But let me get on to the next leaderboard. I'm sort of tempting you with a bit of fate here. When we get on to the next one, we know it's the same time. And look at this. Top of the leaderboard. And doesn't use as much fuel as that 4GT either. So equal at the top in terms of times, but better on the fuel there. That's good stuff for that Nissan. So very good in fuel efficiency, this car. As we go to the next part of the leaderboard, you see the Aston Martin just drops off for days there. That's its final gear. It just struggles there. But hey, it says fuel for days for that Aston Martin. We've been comparing against that car throughout this just because the old cars are at the back. And then we go to the quarter shift fuel map 3, and look at that, it's top again. This time, actually the outright leader. Again, bit more fuel than the 4GT there. This car can save fuel and has the performance to save fuel. So if you have a fuel-saving race, okay, an extreme fuel-saving race as well, this is the car to go for potentially if you want to avoid that pit stop because of fuel. Keep that in mind. A very, very good strength there for this car. Now, that is it in terms of the fuel. It's now time to do a tyre test, and we're going to be doing 2 tyre tests for you. Yes, I'm introducing the second tyre test for you now as we get ready with the first one. So we're doing the oval. We're going to keep the oval in here because I think it's a good indicator of how Tyre Wear works in terms of the weight of the car. Where does it sit? Okay, so this is all about going flat out around the oval until the first tyre wears out. That's all it is. Now, FR versus MR, they're obviously going to be a difference. So you've got to compare FR versus FR and MR versus MR. That's front engine rear wheel drive versus mid engine rear wheel drive. Okay. Now, I'll show you all of the tests here so you can see what I'm doing there. I'm trying to stay as close to that line as possible as I go around here. You can see huge speed as well. 176 was read there, so it does really have strong top end here. And we keep going until that tyre wear disappears here on the first tyre. As we slow it down now, we're getting closer and closer and closer to that end. What we then do, folks, is we add up all the time together, and that gives us how long the tyres last. A very simple test, very easy to replicate as well if you want to try this. So we add the 35.590, you can see at the top. This, in addition, to lap 2 and lap 1, which we can see on the right-hand side, that gives us a total time that we can then say the tyres lasted for, or the tyre lasted for. What we're also going to do, though, is go to Sardinia here. So I introduced this test a couple of weeks ago, essentially, and I started doing the test for the cars. I've not done all the cars that I've already done already. I am going through those at the moment. But essentially, this will give us braking, understeer when turning, and everything in between as well. Because this car does understeer. We advance to lap 5 then. Again, we're just waiting for that first tyre to disappear, whichever tyre that may be, as we go into the right hand. You can see we're struggling with understeer here. I've actually paused it because the tyre wear's just disappeared with that understeer. We know this car understeers, so that front tyre wear is definitely going to increase over time, especially as it wears out there. And again, we add all those times up together, and that gives us an overall picture in how this car handles. You can make it to the line even without that tyre, though. You're just going to be driving a little bit slowly. Right, let's put it all together then. Let's give you all the information you need. So the tyre test at the oval, it's top. It's top by a large margin as well. So that is quite significant. I'm assuming the downforce will be playing a factor because both GT500 cars there are at the top. So the downforce on the other cars obviously impacting how those tyres, well, wear on the road, essentially. They may be lighter as well. I'm not actually checked that. Probably something I should include in these car profiles going forward. If there is anything you do want me to include, do let me know in the comments. What we're going to do now is go to the circuit, where it is P2 out the 4 cars I have done. I did do the BMW M6 because I know that's a very good car, and you can see a huge difference there. So that understeer plays a big factor when you take into turning and braking. It's significant. Overall, then, the Nissan doesn't even make it into the top 10 when you add up all the lap times together. This just gives us an idea of what is a strong car overall. We know that Porsche is strong. We know the Supra is strong at the top there. And we know the BMW M6 is. The Nissan, yeah, it's down in second to last. It's not last. Hashtag not last. It's second to last there. So it does need a buff of some kind. Even just get it like for like with a Supra GT500 car, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be up there. Just like for like with that car is significant, in my opinion. But folks, that is going to be it for this car profile. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If there is anything, as I said before, that you do want to see, let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to try and add it or change it. I've taken loads of feedback on. I've added things where I need to add it, where you have suggested it. Now, again, if you did like it, hit that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button to stay in touch with all the latest content in terms of car profiles, beat the meta, weekly race guides, just loads and loads of different stuff. I'm hoping to get more and more out there for you. Now, if you want to check out the Beat the Meta for this car, that is right there for you, as well as another car profile if you want to check that one out. The last one we did, the Ferrari 458. But once again, I do have to say a big thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.